Hi, I'm going to try to do this part on critiquing once again, okay? Um, I'm going to try to get you, I know one of the things that it's really hard to do is to get specific in the comments that you write. So let me see if I can give you some ideas, all right? I'm going to go back and just for the heck of it, because I just did a video just a minute ago about this image. I'm going to pull that image up, and we're looking in week 3, assignment 2, so it's the crit for week 4. And this is the drawing that we're going to look at, and this is pretty much what it tells us to do. It says to do a value scale so you can play with the different ideas, and that's a good idea. But as the critique person, you may not see that. You're just going to come right in, and you want to be aware of things like light source, if there's a nice dark tone and a light tone and those kind of blending for transitions. In other words, you want to read through this before you do your critique and be sure you're clear on what it's supposed to be about. And then I would even look at this. I would even say, all right, well, let me see if it looks like something that they've just thrown down here, or is it something they're really working on? Um, is there a three-dimensional illusion? That's another thing you're going to want to look at in the critique. You're going to want to look at shading instead of line to define form. You're going to want to look at the whole value scale in putting your critique together, okay? Now that's not hard. Most of you guys figure that one out, all right? So now let's look at a drawing and let me give you some ideas about how I think you need to proceed on something like that. Now, first of all, let's talk about a three-dimensional illusion. I feel pretty happy with this as far as a three-dimensional illusion. The image is not the best, but that'll be talked about in another video. Pardon me. But I feel sort of comfortable with that. I feel a sense of this being locked in space. I feel a perspective on this saucer, and I feel a perspective on these eggs as well. So I'm not unhappy with that, all right? Now, the original assignment asked for 12 eggs. This is a drawing that I did for something else, but if you were critiquing this, I would certainly make a note of that. There are only 2 eggs here, okay? What's the deal? If there's a 3D illusion and you say, yes, there's a good sense of space, where I'm having trouble with you guys, making you understand, I think, or maybe where you're getting nailed, is you have to look at how is that illusion fixed. Well, first of all, I've got a space in the background. I have a background. It's not much, granted, but it gives me a sense of there being a wall or some kind of a backboard and then a table edge. And so that gives me that sense of space. Then space by the sense of the perspective that is going on there. So don't just say, yeah, there's a good 3D illusion of space. There is because specifics, I can tell there's a background by the shading tones, the difference, and about the line that's on a diagonal. I can tell that there's a space because of the perspective in the saucer and the shading on the eggs, the way they're darker at one edge and maybe move to the other. Okay, that's what I mean by specifics. Now, in talking about going to the next thing, which is an objective, let's talk about the tonal values. I don't have a tonal chart here, but you can count, right? Let's look at lights. Is there an absolute light? Well, yeah, there's an absolute light here and here and here maybe and down in here and on certain areas of the counter. So there's an area. Is there an absolute dark? Does it go all the way to dark? Well, yeah, it looks like it does. So you've got those two extremes. How about in between? Are we seeing several shades in between? Well, yeah, you see 2 or 3 shades right here, another couple back here, and look at the eggs themselves. Do we see different tones in here? Well, you should. I do. Okay, and that's not by accident, incidentally. That's by. But how are you going to say that? Well, you're going to say, well, I see a dark shade under the eggs. I see dark shades under the. In other words, don't just say the tonal values are all good. There are lots of shades there. Tell me where the shades are. There's a dark shadow under the egg. Both eggs have a very dark shadow. Now this is called, just FYI, that little space right in here, that's called a penumbra. That's the darkest part of a shadow. But you see that shadow gets lighter as it moves off, but there's still a nice a nice firm edge on that one, all right? So you can say, yeah, in the shadow, there's a very dark next to the egg, which is as it should be, and then it moves to the edge and gets a little bit lighter. And you can say the same thing about this here. Dark where that egg is absolutely resting on the saucer, light as that white plate is kind of reflected. Dark right underneath that saucer, light as it moves to the edge of that shadow from the saucer, okay? You're seeing lots of shades. How about the eggs themselves? Egg on the right. Don't just say there are a lot of good shades. That's too general. There's a dark shade from the right. The light source seems to be coming from the top, and from the top you can go from a very dark source on the right down the right side, and it gets into all kinds of muted tones to another sort of dark to much lighter from a reflection down there. All right, so, or if you want to count, you know, darkest here, light is here, but be specific, okay? Those are just some ideas. I hope those help you some, and I hope you enjoy your next crit. I know they're not easy, and I know that a lot of times you wish you didn't have to do them, but they really do make you stronger, not just because you survived them, but because you have to get so analytical. Okay? Thanks. Look forward to reading your next crit.